Hi there. In this video, I'm going to talk you through a tool that I use in Photoshop all the time to draw in perspective. So this is the shape tool. It's the one located here. You'll often see it first as a rectangle there, but if you just click and hover, go down to polygon, then you'll find the polygon tool and you can make a perspective star, which is super handy for drawing with perspective. I'll just explain how I did that. So you you select polygon tool there, and then I like to keep this setting up in the top left corner to shape. You can have it on path, which will just give you a path, but there's nothing there. You'd have to stroke that path or do something with it to get a permanent star in there. Um, or you can select pixels, and you'll see now if I do it, it'll drop in, and you can use pixels if you want. I like to use shape, but either works. Either works fine. So let's go to shape, and I like to have a fill on in black, and then this is really important. If you set it to 100 there, that's 100 sides. And in the settings panel, which is this little drop down menu here, uh, if you make sure that that says 1% and that says from center, that's ticked on, then you'll get the same result here as I'm getting. So I click and hold shift and drag, and that gives me a big star that I can then put on a low opacity. And now that it's on a low opacity, I'll use it to sit behind my rough, and I'll draw my scene from there. It's super useful for drawing buildings. You can put multiple ones in if you just hold Option on your keyboard and drag or Alt. You can duplicate the layer and have 2-point perspective, which is really useful. You can prioritize one by putting it on a higher opacity. Uh, so you can see, you can just play around with moving, oh, wrong layer. You can play around with moving these things, and I find them just super useful for all types of drawings. Um, yeah, especially drawing cities. So I'll just explain why those other things are there. So when you do that, you get a star. If you say went to 50 sides, you see you'd only get that many lines. Let's go back to 100, and then here, say you were to go from 1% to 99%, let's try. You see it's a big circular shape with those edges. That's not what we want. 50% gives you something like this, something a bit more star-like looking. You can drop that down to 50. You'd get even more of a star-like shape. But for these purposes, keep that to 100 and keep that to 1%. And then, for example, say on this image, I mean, there's no buildings in here, but when I was drawing it, I had a perspective star in there. And just to know where I wanted my horizon line, put it on a low opacity. Sometimes drop it a little bit lower. But I find it really useful for drawing. And I often just lock these layers, put it on lock, and then it's there underneath, and you're constantly referring back. And it helps, you know, especially with things like drawing clouds and stuff, you kind of want them to angle towards the the perspective point, the horizon line. Here's another one where I really relied on this to do kind of the accurate drawing of the perspective here. I wouldn't probably be able to match it exactly, but let's put in a perspective star, and it was probably somewhere around here. It starts kind of matching up. You see that having one of these in here is like, it's super useful for drawing anything in perspective. Another trick that I often use is, if that's not enough, if you're really getting into the details and you need more information here, you can just duplicate it. So hold Alt and duplicate, or you can right click and click on duplicate layer there. And then if you zoom out and you turn this layer, so Command T to transform, and just tilt it by a little bit, you'll see that I've doubled up perspective star now, so I've got more information to play with. I could do that again, duplicate layer, and it doesn't help that I've done it so big, but you could turn that again and get even more in there. So yeah, that's just a really useful tip that I use all the time, and yeah, I hope you find it handy for your drawings. Thanks for watching. Cheers.